स्वागतम सुस्वागतम. मी अनन्या इयत्ता 8वी मध्ये शिकते. आजच्या प्रकल्प दिनी मी अहिल्या सगर्यांचे सहर्ष स्वागत करते. आजच्या प्रकल्प दिनाची सुरुवात आपण प्रार्थना करूया.
Welcome everyone. Can you guess why today is a special day? Today is Project Day. We, the 8th grade students, will take you on a pleasant journey through the topics we learned from our teachers. My friends are going to make this day an awesome day. Oops, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Sasha Chamrati and I'm here with my friend
Ananya Sharma. Let's begin the day with a prayer.
Can you see it?
We can see it, but we can't hear it.
Okay, just a minute. Is it audible now? मुझे प्रार्थना हे जा मुझे मागणे हे जा मुझे प्रार्थना हे जा मुझे मागणे मानसाने मानसाशी मानसा मागणे 2 minutes. This one. Ananya, will you be able to share the screen?
I will. Can everyone see it?
प्रार्थना
a beautiful subject which opens our eyes to the wonders of the world. Science makes us aware about the reasons and causes of various natural phenomena. Today, my classmates are going to show us their work with the topics we learned in science. I call upon Zahan and Kovet to present their topic about their knowledge on hydrogen cars. Take it away, Zahan and Kovet.
Thank you. Uvid, can you present?
Yes. Please wait. Please wait a minute.
Covid, you need me to present?
Yes, can you please do it? I can't do it.
Sure. Okay. And play. So, hello. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Zahan Printer, and I am with my comrade.
Cool.
And today we'll be explaining about hydrogen fuel cars. So here's a quote the two of us made, and it's not rocket science, except it is because of the science we'll explain to you. So yeah, Covid, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Zahan. Okay, so what are hydrogen fuel cells? Okay, fuel cell vehicles use hydrogen gas to power an electric motor, unlike conventional vehicles that run on gasoline or diesel. Fuel cell cars and trucks combine hydrogen and oxygen to produce electricity, which runs on a motor. It's not unlike a jet engine which combines fuels with oxygen to thrust the airplane. It doesn't thrust it generates electricity. Okay, a fuel such as hydrogen is fed to the anode, which is the negative terminal, and air is fed to the cathode, which is the positive terminal. In a hydrogen fuel cell, a catalyst at the anode separates hydrogen molecules into protons and electrons, which take different paths to the cathode. The electrons go through an external circuit, creating a flow of electricity.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the advantages of hydrogen fuel cells. So the hydrogen fuel cell technology presents several advantages and other power sources, including renewable and readily available. So hydrogen is like the most abundant element in the universe, and despite the challenges associated with taking it out from water, it is like very abundant, and it is a very renewable source of energy, which is perfect for zero carbon needs, which for combined heat and power supplies. Okay, so that's reason one. Reason two, hydrogen is a clean, flexible energy source to support zero carbon energy strategies. Hydrogen fuel cells can provide an essential clean energy source, and the byproducts are simply heat and power. They do not adversely affect the environment during operation, unlike biofuels, hydropower, hydrogen, and it does not require a lot of land to produce. In fact, NASA, which is the space exploration in America, is also working on the same thing, which is hydrogen as a resource. And the water produced as a byproduct is used as drinking water for astronauts. So this shows that hydrogen fuel cells are non-toxic fuel sources and thus superior to coal, natural gas, and nuclear power. And those are all like very dangerous and difficult to obtain. So keep that in mind, since hydrogen is so easy to obtain. Hydrogen production, storage, and use can be regenerated by balancing intermittent supply modality with difficult end user demand and avoiding the need for significant early investment to upgrade grid infrastructure. It also plays an important role in promoting the further development of energy. This basically means that hydrogen production and storage, although it may be expensive, it will play an important role in promoting the further development of energy. More powerful and energy efficient than fossil fuels. Hydrogen fuel cell technology provides a high density energy source with excellent energy efficiency. Hydrogen has the highest energy content of any common fuel by weight. High pressure gas and liquid hydrogen have a weight energy density about 120 mg by kilograms, and they about 3 times that of diesel and LNG, and have a volumetric energy density similar to that of natural gas. This just means that hydrogen is way more powerful and more efficient than the fossil fuels we already have in our Earth, which take millions of years to form. It is highly efficient compared to other energy sources. So hydrogen fuel cells are more efficient, so including many green energy solutions. So this fuel efficiency can increase energy production per pound of fuel. For example, traditional combustion-based power plants generate electricity at 33 to 35% efficiency compared to 65% for hydrogen cells, which is a big gap. The same applies to automobiles. Hydrogen fuel cells use 40 to 60% of fuel energy while reducing fuel consumption by 50%. So there are almost zero emissions for hydrogen fuel cells. They do not emit greenhouse gases, unlike fossil fuel sources, and they reduce pollution and improve air quality as a result because they have no emissions. So they also reduce carbon footprints. Since they have no emissions, hydrogen fuel cells don't release greenhouse gases, meaning no carbon footprint when you use them. And then fast charging times. So when you charge a hydrogen fuel cell power unit, it is very fast, and it is similar to the charging time of a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle, and significantly faster than that of a battery powered vehicle. If it takes 30 minutes to several hours to charge an electric vehicle, the hydrogen fuel cell can be charged within 5 minutes. This fast charge time means that hydrogen vehicles offer the same flexibility as traditional vehicles. No noise pollution. Hydrogen fuel cells do not produce noise pollution like other sources of renewable energy, such as wind power. This also means that, much like electric cars, hydrogen-powered vehicles are much quieter than those that use a conventional internal combustion engines. No visual pollution. Some low-carbon energy sources, such as wind energy and biofuel plants, can be annoying. But hydrogen fuel cells do not have the same space requirements, which reduces visual pollution. Long usage times. Hydrogen fuel cells offer great efficiencies with regard to usage times. A hydrogen vehicle has the same range as those that use fossil fuels, around 300 miles. This is superior to that currently offered by electric vehicles, which are increasingly being developed with fuel cell power units known as range extenders. And hydrogen fuel cells are not significantly impacted by the outside temperature and do not deteriorate in cold weather, unlike electronic vehicles. The advantage is increased further when coupled with the short charging times. This basically means that hydrogen fuel cells will just last longer, and since you have a small amount of charging time, you can use them like you use in a regular car. Ideal for use in remote areas. If local circumstances permit, the availability of hydrogen from local power generation and storage could be an alternative to diesel-based electricity and heating in remote areas. Not only does this reduce the need for fuel transportation, but it also improves the lives of people living in remote areas by providing clean fuel from readily available natural resources. Versatility of use. As technology advances, hydrogen fuel cells will be able to provide energy for a variety of fixed and mobile applications. Hydrogen vehicles are just one example, but they can also be used for small applications such as domestic products and large heating systems. As with ICE power plants, the energy storage capacity, which is fuel tanks, and engine size functions are separated in contrast to battery-based power, that is, power changes in proportion to mass. Thus, there is a great flexibility in design. Democratization of power supply. Hydrogen fuel cells have the potential to reduce the country's reliance on fossil fuels, which helps democratize energy and power supplies around the world. This increase in independence will benefit many countries that currently rely on fossil fuel supplies. Of course, this also avoids the problem of fossil fuel prices rising as stocks decrease. So that was just some of the advantages of hydrogen fuel cells. And COVID, take it away with the disadvantages.
Okay, thank you, Zahan. What are the disadvantages of hydrogen fuel cells? Hydrogen extraction. Although hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, it does not exist by itself and must be electrolyzed from water separated from carbon fossil fuels. So it does not exist in its pure form. So it has to be processed or electrolyzed. To obtain it. It is required. Both of these processes require a significant amount of energy to achieve. This energy is more than the energy available from hydrogen itself and can be expensive. In addition, this extraction usually requires the use of fossil fuels. This undermines the green credentials of hydrogen in the absence of CCS. So it's almost as if these, while in use, expel greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, because when we have to process it, to obtain hydrogen as a fuel, greenhouse gases are expelled into the atmosphere. Investment is required. Hydrogen fuel cells require investment to develop into a truly viable energy source. This also requires a political will to invest time and money in development to improve and mature the technology. Simply put, the global challenge to the development of widespread and sustainable hydrogen energy is the best way to build a supply and demand chain in a step-by-step manner in the most cost-efficient way. Cost of raw materials. Precious metals such as platinum and iridium are usually required as catalysts for fuel cells and sometimes for water electrolyzers. This means it's expensive. It already is. Okay. This means that the initial cost of the fuel cell and the electrolytic cell can be high. This high cost discourages investment in hydrogen fuel cell technology. In order to in order for hydrogen fuel cells to be a viable source for everywhere, such costs need to be reduced. So it can't be used for rural areas or places where money can't be invested. Not much money can be invested. Okay, regulatory issues. There are also barrier to regulatory issues regarding the framework that defines the commercial deployment model. Without a clear regulatory framework that enables commercial projects to understand the basis of cost and returns, commercial projects can have difficulty reaching financial investment decisions or FIDs. Overall cost. The cost of a unit of electricity from a hydrogen fuel cell is now higher than other fuels. So, by the energy sources, including solar panels, this can change with the technological advances. But now, this cost is a barrier to the widespread use of hydrogen, even though it is more efficient once manufactured. This cost will also affect future costs, such as the price of hydrogen-powered vehicles, which is unlikely to be widely adopted at this time. Hydrogen storage. Storage and transportation of hydrogen is more complex than that required for fossil fuels. This implies additional costs to consider for hydrogen fuel cells as a source of energy. Infrastructure. Fossil fuels have been used for decades, so the infrastructure for this power source already exists. Large-scale adaptation of hydrogen fuel cell technology in automotive applications requires new refueling infrastructure to support it. Although long-distance applications such as HGVs and delivery trucks, is it likely to start to end refueling may be used? Is it likely start to end refueling might be used? Highly flammable. Hydrogen is a highly flammable fuel source, which brings understandable safety concerns. Hydrogen gas burns in air at concentrations ranging from 4 to 75%. It's highly reactive with oxygen. That's what happens. Conclusion summary. The advantages of hydrogen fuel cells as one of the best renewable energy sources are evident. However, there are still a number of challenges to overcome to realize the full potential of hydrogen as a key enabler for a future decarbonized energy system. On the positive side, hydrogen fuel cells could offer a fully renewable and clean power source for stationary and mobile applications in the near future. To achieve this, there's a need to scale up decarbonized hydrogen production and fuel cell manufacture and develop the required regulatory framework to clearly define commercial deployment models. Further technological advances to lower the associated costs of extraction, storage, and transportation are envisaged, along with further investment in the infrastructure to support it. Hydrogen could become the best solution for the future of our energy requirements, but this would require political will and investment to achieve. However, as fossil fuels run out, hydrogen could be a key solution for our global energy needs. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing.
Well, Zan, I thought you would make some questions about on this PPT.
Yeah, we have a few questions. So, if any of the parents would like to answer, please do so. So, question number 1 is, how do hydrogen fuel cells work?
Everyone, please
I can
raise your
just-
hand to answer.
I can just say overall that both the children have researched the topic very well, and they've given a lot of details and tried to understand what the advantages and disadvantages is. And I do agree to an extent that going forward in the future, hydrogen is something that we'll have to depend upon and research more, as we go along. So I think both the children have done a very nice job.
Answer the question. Okay, I don't think anyone knows, so I think we're just going to skip all the questions because they're a bit hard. So, yeah, Ananya, you can take it.
Apparently,
You
that was an
already
amazing
explained, Zahan, how it works, na? How that hydrogen can be separated by electrolytic method. Hai na?
Hmm.
You already
Ions.
said that in the beginning. Hai na? That
Yeah,
with the
but,
help of catalyst, like hydrogen can be
Actually,
separated
yes,
in protons and
yeah,
electrons.
so it,
Hai na? Yeah,
yeah, ma'am.
go ahead.
We're done with the questions.
Well, that was truly amazing. Now I call upon Rahini, Brinda, and Priyanka to
Thank you. Just a minute.
relationship between science.
Sahasra seems to have been disconnected, but now I call upon Rahini, Brinda, and Priyanka to present their project on the relationship between science and art. Take it away.
Is my screen visible?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The relationship between science and arts by Brinda B. Appu, Priyanka Ramesh, and Rahini Jain. Ete.
Do you believe that science and art are interconnected?
I don't believe so. What do you think, Brinda?
As a matter of fact, art and science are connected. Traditionally, art and science have been treated as two separate disciplines, but when they are studied together, it's very clear to see the impact one has on the other.
Yes, and I've heard that a great deal of creativity is required to make scientific breakthroughs.
So today we are going to discuss about the relationship between art and science.
Let's go.
In truth, science has been influencing art from as early as man learned to draw. Be the depiction of movement, life cycles, and evolution found in ancient cave drawings and symbols.
Visual art has been used to document the natural world for thousands of years, from cave drawings of animals that help today researchers find about yesterday's fauna, to paintings of centuries-old experiments.
Astronomical art. Astronomical art, it is the aspect of space art devoted to visualizing the wonders of outer space. A major emphasis of such art is the space environment as a new frontier for humanity. Many other works portray alien worlds, extremes of matter such as black holes, and concepts arising from inspiration derived from astronomy. So the NASA Fine Arts program, it has been an ongoing effort to hire artists to create works generally specific to a particular space project. The invention of the telescope revealed celestial objects as physical, observable bodies. Taking this to heart, artists began to follow a more realistic approach. Donato Cretti's paintings Moon and Jupiter show stars and planets as viewed through a telescope. So these are the photos of space art.
Photography is by far one of the amazing achievements in our history today, as it's a wondrous invention evolved. Newer mediums use light and chemistry to print an image directly onto a printed sheet of celluloid or paper, and many people consider photography as an art form. It allows for an expression of emotion because photography is just like a painting in the sense
history and combination of art and science. History is littered with combinations of art and science that can be traced back to the very beginning of humankind. When looking into the history of science alone, we can easily see that when man first created fire, an entirely new world of colors and possibilities opened up to us. We were able to explore and see new things, heat things up and melt substances to create new substances. Now, let us talk about the most intriguing personality in the history of Western art, a man of numerous talents, the creator of the Mona Lisa.
Yes, that's right. Leonardo da Vinci. While his Mona Lisa is probably the most famous portrait ever painted, Da Vinci's scientific drawings, recently on exhibit at the Boston Museum of Science, are smaller in scale and intricately detailed and annotated. And they demonstrate that he was no less skilled as an inventor and researcher. He was not only a skilled artist, but he was also a skilled inventor and researcher. He was a man of both science and art. In fact, Da Vinci's talent as a bridge engineer was proven in 2001 when artist Webb John Sand built the Da Vinci Beyond Bridge in Norway, using the artist's never realized plans for a bridge meant to stretch across the Golden Wall in a spin wheel. And that proves that his designs were functional. He took the approach of actually observing natural and asking deceptively simple scientific questions like, how do birds fly? He then systematically recorded the solutions in his sketches. Leonardo had the unique ability to observe nature and record it.
Leonardo da Vinci's life. Now, Leonardo da Vinci might have been the best inventor ever. However, he hardly had any capital technology for centuries. Let us find out more about his mechanical marvels that never were. Now, Leonardo drew sketches and images of his ideas, which he never implemented. He either lost fascination with painting because he was in a position to persuade any of his rich men to one Now, Leonardo is known by many as the Renaissance man. He's considered one of the fashion
Thank you.
That was spectacular.
Well, have you ever wondered if there were any scientific advancements during World War II? Well, I'll call upon Raghav to speak on this topic.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the project day. Welcome to my presentation on scientific advancements in World War II. Okay, so now World War II was a time of great loss, death, and tragedy, and it was a very dark period in history. Around 85 million people died during this period of time, and it was all because of petty conflicts between nations. And nuclear bombings led to the spread of deformities to people in Japan, and there were several massacres from which people never recovered. And during this time period, several governments and countries, they wanted to have a step ahead of their enemies. They wanted to be a step ahead of their enemies in the war, and because of this, they created several things in order to gain an advantage in the war. And afterwards, after the war was over, these items, many of these items, they were repurposed for common use, for use by the public. So in this presentation, I hope to show you all scientific inventions and advancements by the Allies as well as Nazis, which were the two main factions during World War II. And I will attempt to explain how they were created and how their use was brought up after the war. All right, I begin with radar. Now, the full form of radar is radio detection and ranging. And this piece of technology was invented by the British just before World War II. Okay, so now the grandson of James Watt, the famous inventor of the steam engine, Robert Alexander Watson Watt. So this person had invented a reliable method to help airmen locate and avoid approaching thunderstorms. Okay, so now Robert Alexander Watson Watt, I'll just call him Watson Watt from now on. So what he invented this piece of technology that helped. So when if there was a thunderstorm nearby, it would tell airmen, or it would tell pilots that there's a nearby incoming thunderstorm, and pilots would easily evade this trouble. And now this invention will be very important for radar. So now in the period that is 1930s, Great Britain was under Great Britain there was a huge impossibility of air raids and invasion in Great Britain by several opposing enemies, and Great Britain needed to increase its defense measures during this period of time. So now the previously mentioned Watson Watt realized that this invention that could help airmen locate thunderstorms could be applied to help in Britain increase its defense measures, especially for the Royal Air Force at the time. So then so he tweaked his previous invention and called it radar. So now what is the principle behind radar? So according to Watson Watt, every single metal object emits radio waves. So radio waves are a wavelength of light. So according to so not emits, actually they reflect radio waves. And according to him, if radio antennas were installed on the ground, many people you could because of the radio waves reflected by these planes, you could track the precise location, and you could also not only track the precise location, but at what elevation they were at, and you could also check what elevation they were at. So now Watson Watt convinced the British Air Force that his radar invention had merit, and in 1935 the British Air Force began using radar technology. They started constructing radar antennas across Britain and in the English Channel, most importantly. With the English Channel is the strait of water that separates the United Kingdom from France. So now by 1939, this invention of radar had helped the British very much because of the Battle of Britain. So now what is the Battle of Britain? Okay, so now the Battle of Britain, the German Air Force began bombing London, but however, Britain responded by ordering air raids over Berlin. That's the capital city of Germany. And because of this, then a long battle began called the Battle of Britain. And Britain got it, and it resulted in a decisive victory for Great Britain. And this became a key foothold in the war, because after this, it set the tone for British victory along with its allies. So why did radar help during this battle? Because since radar sets were installed, radio antennas were installed in the English Channel, several German airplanes could be identified, and the British knew exactly what to do once these German ships had arrived in the English Channel. So fighting the battle became much easier. Okay, after this we have the world's first computer, also known as ENIAC. So now ENIAC is the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer. Okay, so now during the early 1940s, that is in 1942, there were two scientists, John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert, who were in the University of Pennsylvania. Now, John Mauchly basically in 1942, he said that he believed vacuum tubes could increase the speed of calculations of calculators. Now, the US government, they were very interested upon hearing this, because they needed faster calculators than the already existing mechanical calculators. Why was that? So, for example, let's say there's a soldier and he's in a particular situation at war. Now, what kind of bullets he would require, how many bullets he required, and what kind of gun would be best in that situation, would be best used in that situation. these kind of calculations would take the US days to complete. A regular human being, it would take days to complete or even months to complete such calculations. And the US needed to find faster methods of calculation. So the US told these two people, Mauchly and Eckert, that we'll fund this idea of yours, and we hope that you will create this whatever you're proposing. So then the US government began funding the development of ENIAC in the year 1942. So now the completion of this project ended in November of 1945, but by this time the war had already ended. And it cost $487,000 to build. So now if it was adjusted to inflation, the same cost in 2022 would be around $5.9 million to build. So now ENIAC was a monstrosity. It was a gargantuan object. It had around 17,000 vacuum tubes, 70,000 resistors, and 10,000 capacitors. And most importantly, ENIAC could fit a 30 by 50-foot room. It was a huge object. And in fact, it was so huge that in order to program it, it would take scientists days, because there were so many wires that had to be adjusted in order to program ENIAC. However, leaving all this aside, ENIAC could do was able to perform what it was intended to, because the calculation speeds of ENIAC were 1,000 times faster than that of regular mechanical calculators. And later onwards, this ENIAC was repurposed as the computer, and now you use it in your everyday day-to-day lives. It's a very important object. And importantly, modern day computers are much faster than the ENIAC ever was. Okay, now the last invention we'll be looking at is super glue. Okay, now super glue, the adhesive that is super glue was discovered in 1942 by a certain Dr. Harry Coover. So now during World War II, so this individual Coover was part of a team that experimented with a chemical called cyanoacrylates. Now the original aim of this team was to create a plastic. So now basically the US government wanted to make sure that soldiers had much better aiming with guns, and that would make gunning down the enemy much easier. So now Coover and his team were assigned to find a clear plastic that would achieve this goal. So now while working with cyanoacrylates, the researchers saw that this cyanoacrylates were very sticky. So they became something very hard to work with, and they were eventually abandoned. And there was another element that was used for this clear type of plastic. And in 1951, he was shifted to a chemical plant in Kingsport, Tennessee. That's again in the US. And then he realized that a very interesting property of cyanoacrylates. So usually in order to stick two objects together, you would require heat or pressure. However, Coover realized that these cyanoacrylates, in order to stick to one another, they did not require any heat or pressure. So then he filed a patent number 2,768,109 for alcohol catalyzed cyanoacrylate adhesive compositions, also known as super glue. And he became a very famous celebrity at that time for his invention of super glue. And on an unrelated note, the invention also helped in the Vietnam War against the Soviet Union and the Viet Cong in Vietnam, and because it's helped save the life of several soldiers. And on that note, I end the presentation. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much.
Wow,
Well, that was
I never knew this.
Now, time for a short break from the projects. We're going to ask you all some fun riddles.
So raise your hand to answer all the parents. The first question. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? Raise your hand if you know the answer.
I'm just taking a wild guess. Chimes?
A bit close. Something related to chimes. Anyone else?
Flute?
Again, something related to that.
It's very close.
Might be there, and then it might not, or maybe we're just fooling you by saying it's close. Any other guesses?
Ananya, I think you should tell the answer.
Okay, fine. Since no one knew this, it's an echo. It speaks without a mouth and hears without ears. And it comes alive with the wind. Now to Sasha for the second question.
Yeah. So the second question is, how did Thomas Edison invent the light bulb? It's a really simple question.
Plagiarism.
No, no.
That is correct, but not quite what we are looking
Yeah,
for.
he plagiarized the Canadian inventor Henry Wilbur.
Can you repeat your question, please? Riddle, please.
Okay. How did Thomas Edison invent the light bulb?
Yeah.
Money.
No.
With his knowledge,
Buying
experiments.
patents.
Wait, Tanishq, you're
You're
close.
close. You're close. Very close, Tanishq.
Buying patents.
Experiments.
As far as I know, I think he had experimented.
It's a sort of pun.
It's the kind of exactly. It isn't scientific. You just have to use your wit.
Yeah.
He had
He
the
kept
light bulb
trying
movement.
experiments, knowledge, what else?
Wait. We can't.
If none of you can guess the
He had the
answer,
light bulb movement with the.
yes.
Yeah,
You're
you're
close,
close,
you're
but then tell it proper.
Tell the correct answer. The light bulb moment. What do you call
Yeah.
it?
Flash.
He had a
Ashita,
bright
answer.
A
He
spark.
had a bright idea.
idea.
Very good. That's correct. He had a bright idea.
Okay. So
Well, that was fun. Also, a quick note that the parents will be answering a quiz at the end of the preparations. Well, let's continue.
Yep. So now I call upon Ananya to present her project on the science behind musical instruments.
Thank you, Sahasra. Can you give me a moment? I'll share my screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes, Ananya.
Thank you. So, the science behind musical instruments. So, first of all, to understand the science behind musical instruments, we'll have to understand how is sound produced. So, basically, an object vibrates, so it produces a pressure wave. The pressure wave causes the particles in the surrounding medium, it can be air, water, or solids, to vibrate. So, the particles in the surrounding mediums also start vibrating. So when the particle vibrates, it causes nearby particles also to vibrate and further transmits the sound through the medium. So basically, this disturbance of these particles can produce a sound. The classification of musical instruments. Now, there are musical instruments are divided into different types depending on how they produce their sound. So broadly, we can classify them into three types: percussion instruments, string instruments, and wind instruments. First of all, percussion instruments. Percussion instruments are the simplest and most primitive musical instruments. The simplest definition of a percussion instrument is hitting something and producing the sound when struck. So percussion instruments produce sounds when they're struck. The drums have a hollow body that amplifies the sound of a stretched membrane while being struck. Some instruments, like maracas, are shaken. Others resonate when hit, like bells. However, others, like cymbals, simply make noise when struck. So this is a drum, this is the hollow membrane. So you hit it and it produces a sound. These are the maracas. They produce a sound while they're being shaken. And these are bells. The sound resonates. Now I'll demonstrate an experiment about how percussion instruments work. So first of all, I'll be taking 3 glasses. So I'm going to be making the instrument, the Indian instrument, a Jaltarang. I'm going to be filling each of these glasses with different amounts of water.
And then you put your camera down a bit so we can.
Okay, fine. Add 2 minutes. I'm going to be filling each of these with different amounts of water. I'm going to be hitting each of them with a pencil. Like how I said, percussion instruments produce a sound while being struck. If you noticed, the different levels of water in each of the glasses made the glass produce a different type of pitch. So the glasses with lower levels of water produce a lower pitch, and glasses with higher levels of water produce a higher pitch. Now my question for all of you. Can anyone guess why the glasses produce different pitches? Raise your hand for the answer. Okay. Rahini, you can answer.
Because they're traveling to different amounts of mediums. Water is a different liquid.
Yes, that is correct. The container that has more water will produce a higher pitch because there is less air in the container. While the container that has less water will produce a low pitch because there is more air filled in that container. Now, string instruments. String instruments can be played in many ways and come in many variations. String instruments range from the simple lyre to a modern guitar, violin, and a piano. Yes, the piano is a string instrument. They are all based on the sound of strings. All stringed instruments produce sounds with tensioned strings. Longer strings produce a lower pitch than shorter strings. Tighter strings produce a higher pitch sound than looser strings. Thicker strings produce a lower pitch than thinner strings. So even though all the strings on a guitar are the same length, they all sound different because of the different amount of thickness of each of the strings. Stringed instruments can be plucked, bowed, or in the case of the piano, struck with a hammer. The bow allows for very long sustained notes with interesting dynamics. Have any of you heard a violin? If you have, then you know that the sound, when it's played with a bow, and it has very long sustained and beautiful notes. Electric guitars use magnetic pickups to convert vibrations into an electrical signal. String instruments have to be perfectly in tune. So if you go on an acoustic piano or maybe a violin or a guitar, you will have to tune it occasionally. And there are different ways of tuning. Here are some string instruments. Wind instruments. So wind instruments are one of the major family of instruments in use today. Woodwinds are practically defined as hollow tubes which, when blown on one end, produce a sound. A transverse flute works by blowing air across a hole. Have any of you ever heard someone playing a flute or ever seen? So you'll know that they put their hands on different holes to cause different types of vibrations. And that makes a beautiful sound. And these transverse flutes are usually held horizontally. Another experiment. So for this experiment, I will be using a couple of straws, perhaps let's take 5, 7 because of the 7 notes. Now I'll be cutting each of these straws in different lengths. So let's go from small, slightly bigger, even more slightly bigger, let's take 5. Now, I will be cutting each of these straws at an angle. Now I'll take a piece of tape. And lay each of the straws over here. And I'll put them in according to their length. You may recognize this as a certain instrument, and it's called a pan flute. Did you notice how the shorter straws produced a higher pitch sound? Can anyone guess why? Raise your hands for the answer. Okay. No guesses? So the shorter straws produce a higher pitch sound because the air is traveling a shorter distance. Thus, the frequency of the sound is going to be higher. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
Well, that was amazing. Even I didn't know there was so much science between the musical instruments. Well, now I call upon Netra to present her topic on the laws of reflection.
Thank you, Sahasra. So today I'm going to be explaining the laws of reflection. What is reflection? The process through which light rays falls on the surface and gets bounced back is known as a reflection of light. Types of reflection. Regular reflection. It occurs when the surface is smooth. Reflected rays move in particular direction. Example, reflection by the plane mirror. Diffuse reflection. It occurs when the surface is a rough surface. Reflected rays scattered in random directions. Example, reflection by the road surface. Laws of reflection. The first law is the angle of reflection and the angle of incidence both are always equal to one another. So I would be showing you an experiment for proving this. So here you can see I have kept a mirror and there is a screen over here. I would be reflecting a beam of light. So you can see the reflected light over here. This one is the incident ray. This is the reflected
Netra, could
ray.
you please remove your background since we cannot see anything?
I have actually done it with another device, if you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the incident ray and this is the reflected ray. And there is an imaginary line in between, which is called the normal. So they all lie on the same plane, which is the mirror. And then the second law is the reflected ray, the incident ray, and the normal to the reflective surface at the point of incident all come on the same plane. For this, here, I would be reflecting this at a 50-degree angle. And when it comes back at the 50-degree angle. So it proves that the angle is same. Thank you.
Well, that was amazing. Now I call upon Ashita to present her topic on magnetic. On her topic.
All right, just a second. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashita from grade 8A, and today I'll be presenting my presentation on metals and magnetic force. Index. What are we going to discuss about today? We're going to discuss about what metals are, if they're magnetic, what magnetic force is, and a few activities. The activities are my favorite part, so stay tuned for that. What are metals? Metals are substances categorized by high electrical and thermal conductivity, as well as malleability, ductility, and high reflectivity of light. Metals are the main component in the construction industry. Metals like iron and steel, amongst others, are the main materials used in construction of buildings and even homes. Another important application of metals are in electronics. Metals are used as both good conductors of electricity and as materials with increased resistance and electric heating elements. Are metals magnetic? Magnets are objects which can attract or pull on some metals like iron and steel. If you rub a piece of steel with a strong magnet, the piece of steel will become a magnet too. It has become magnetized. Other metals like copper or gold are not attracted to magnets, since they are weak metals. In their natural states, metals such as aluminum, brass, copper, gold, lead, and silver don't attract magnets because they are weak metals. However, you can add properties such as iron or steel to the weak metals to make them stronger. Adding even a small quantity of iron to a metal such as silver could make it magnetic. Lastly, what is magnetic force? Magnetism is the force of attraction or repulsion between substances made of certain materials such as iron, nickel, cobalt, and steel. The force of magnetism, simply put, is due to the motion of electric charges. Magnets are present in most electronic devices. In fact, anything that has a motor in it uses a magnet. We're not done yet. It's time for the activities. If you'd like, you could pin me to your screen for a better understanding. Alright, let's go ahead. I would like to show you something on a compass first. Do you know how a compass works? A compass works by detecting and responding to Earth's natural magnetic fields. So the green needle on a compass here is the South Pole, whereas the orange needle is the North Pole. Since compasses work with the help of a magnetic field, we will consider this magnet right here, Earth's natural magnetic field. So I have the magnet here where the red part is the North Pole and the blue part is the South Pole. Since like poles repel and unlike poles attract, I will be using the south part of this magnet to attract the north part of the needle here. Now as you can see, I'm moving the compass without touching it. Now why does this happen? Well, it's because of some natural magnetic field present on Earth on both sides of the poles that attract the needle. So pretty easy, right? This was all about magnetic force on a compass. Now let's move on to my next activity, which is also about magnetism. Here I have some iron fillings, which I hope you can see, and a magnet that will show us how magnetic force can pull out the iron substances in no time. Since magnetism is the force of attraction, a strong magnet could easily pick up iron fillings. So I have a magnet here, some iron fillings, and a ruler. Now let's see if the ruler and the iron fillings are both attracted to the magnet or not. Let's try this magnet on this scale first. What do we see? The scale is not magnetic since the ruler is made out of plastic. There is no magnetism induced in plastics by an external magnetic field, and therefore they are not attracted by a magnet. Now let's try the same magnet on some iron fillings. Yes, they are attracted to the magnet, as you can see, and this is because magnetism is induced in ions by an external magnetic field. You can try this at home as well, using magnets and stuff laying around at your home, like paper clips, a refrigerator door, a pair of scissors, or anything that attracts magnets. In substances such as iron, cobalt, and nickel, most of the electrons, they spin in the same direction, right? This makes the atoms in these substances strongly magnetic. The force generated by aligned atoms creates a magnetic field. So that was it for my presentation and my activities. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something new. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you all for listening. That's done for science. Stay tuned for the next subjects.
So let's start with the next subject. English is a beautiful language and is one of the most used languages in the world. Today, we will be presenting interviews with our classmates enacting certain characters from the very famous novel, The Alchemist. Let's hear it from the first group, which consists of Zan, Raghav, Ananya, and I.
Good morning, everyone. Today we will be presenting an interview with the character Santiago, who is the main character of the very famous novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We are going to be asking a bunch of interesting questions, and by observing Santiago in The Alchemist, we will try to enact how Santiago would answer the question. Over to Raghav to present the screen.
All right, let me share my screen. Are you able to view my screen?
Yes.
All right.
Raghav, we're not able to hear anything.
Raghav, try sharing your tab.
1 second.
You're sharing your whole browser, this one.
Wait, can you hear it now? 1 second. Can you hear it? Hello, can you hear it?
Did you even start it?
We can't hear it.
Can someone else share it? I'm not able to share the audio.
Vasan, can you try sharing it?
I actually can't right now.
Okay, wait, give me. Wait.
My internet is a bit slow.
Wait, give me.
So it would buffer.
Wait, give me a second. I'll just... Wait, now I'll share it. I hope you can hear it this time. Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Good morning, everyone. I am Zahan Printer, and today I will be playing the role of an interviewer.
I am Ananya, and I will also be playing the role of an interviewer.
I'm Sahasra, and even I'll also be playing the role of an interviewer.
And my name is Raghav, and I'll be playing the role of Santiago from the novel The Alchemist.
So today we will be interviewing Santiago from the very famous novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Santiago?
Hello, my friends. Thank you for inviting me to your news channel. I'm very keen on sharing my experiences, and I hope that we have a wonderful day.
It is a pleasure to have you here, Santiago. So let's get right into it. To do this, I hand the forum over to Sahasra.
Thank you, Zan. I'm very glad to have you here, Santiago. So, do you fear the obstacles you will face on your way to Egypt?
Yes, they do seem quite dangerous.
Well, most of my obstacles pertaining to my journey to Egypt have already been encountered and have been solved. Many of these issues would have to do with my conflicting moral values, such as whether I should stay in Spain or whether I should go and achieve my life's purpose, or whether or not my recurring dreams were something true which needed to be heard, or whether they were fallacies. These were all answered when I met Melchizedek. Melchizedek was a boon. He helped me realize many things that I wouldn't be able to recognize on my own, and helped me realize that traveling was my life's purpose. Apart from that, there would be the dangerous terrain of the Sahara Desert, an unforgiving environment with the scorching hot suns and blisteringly cold nights, and very dangerous animals and tribal wars. However, by God's grace, I will defeat this terrain, and I will embark and I will reach Egypt, and I will complete my life's goal.
Wow, that was amazing. And now I'll hand over the forum to Ananya.
Thank you, Sahasra. My next question for you, Santiago, will be, how did you feel after your meeting with the Gypsy women? She seemed to be quite an important aspect in achieving your goal.
Well, when I first met the Gypsy woman, it was originally to confirm my doubts about my recurring dreams. I had heard about this Gypsy woman, that there was a woman in Tarifa who could interpret any dream. And because my dreams were creating such an since my recurring dreams and my doubts about them were creating huge impediments in my day-to-day life, I felt the need to go and meet her. However, when I met her, it was a completely opposite. It was the complete opposite of what I expected it to be. It was very, very bad. She didn't give me any helpful answers, and I felt a spur of hopelessness and and I felt destitute as well. However, on that same day, I met Melchizedek. So I considered this event to be a sort of double-edged sword, because if I hadn't made the decision to go and meet the if I hadn't made the decision to go and meet the gypsy woman in Tarifa, I would have never met Melchizedek, and I would have never realized my life's goal.
Thank you. Thank you, Santiago, for the answer. I'll now pass the forum over to Zahan.
Thank you, Ananya. So, Santiago, the crystal merchant was, to say the least, a stubborn person. Okay. So, would you help the crystal merchant achieve his dream given the chance?
Well, I would say yes. I would help the crystal merchant in achieving his dream. The crystal merchant had everything figured out for him. He knew what his life's goal was. He knew what he wanted to do, but he lacked the confidence in order to do so. He did not realize that his life's calling, he needed to complete it. He did not realize that his life's calling would never come to him after another time. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And because the crystal merchant helped me so much in realizing that I could become a shepherd any other time, I could sell crystals any other time, but when my life's calling calls me, I must do it at that moment. That is something that the crystal merchant helped me realize. And in order to pay him back, I would definitely help him realize his goal. The crystal merchant was a great man, and I will always be thankful to, and I will always be thankful to him because of how much he helped me on my journey.
But don't you think that if you help the crystal merchant achieve his dream, then he won't, sell crystal anymore, because he was selling crystal to go to Mecca and achieve his dream, right?
Don't you fear what the crystal merchant fears, that he will have no purpose to life after he has went to Mecca?
However, the crystal merchant can do anything after he has traveled to Mecca. He can become a crystal merchant seller again. He can become a shepherd. He can become anything he wants. But life's calling is one of the most important things that can happen to you. And when you receive it, you must seize upon the opportunity. Everything else will happen naturally once it's done. You can never predict the future on your own. You must follow the present, and all the answers will be revealed to you if you just follow, and if you just follow your calling.
It seems like you saw more in him than he saw in himself, and I must commend you for that. So now I will pass the forum over to Sahasra.
Thank you, Zahan. So, what were your first impressions on Tangier?
Tangier, when I had taken my first steps of Tangier, I had noticed a fantastic, bustling city with people roaming left, right, and center. The city was abuzz, and and there were bazaars with shops filled with anything you wanted. I had never heard of something. I had never heard of. There were some bazaars which were selling things I'd never heard of, and Tangier looked like a fantastic. I felt like a bystander to the amazing painting that was Tangier. And Tangier was the first city that I had seen which was outside of Spain, and it gave me a very good glimpse to life outside of Spain. And the people of Tangier were very welcoming and hospitable as well. That is, if we discount the time I got robbed at first.
Wow, I would also love to go to Tangier.
Now, I would ask answer.
Can you repeat that, Ananya?
That was a really interesting answer.
Yes, it was truly an amazing answer. So now I would pass the forum over to Ananya.
Thank you, Sahasra. So my next question for you will be, how did you feel after losing your sheep? They felt like a really important aspect of you. They gave you a purpose and they enabled you to achieve your dream of traveling. So how did you feel after you lost that sense of purpose? You lost your sheep.
Ananya, I completely agree with you. This is an amazing question. Okay, simply amazing. Like, his sheep was so important to him. Santiago, what are your views?
Well, that was a great question, I must agree. And the question made me quite happy. Well, as you see, before I realized that my life's calling was to go and travel around the world, my original purpose in life at that time was to tend to my sheep. Because as you notice, everything that I did in that period of time, that is from 16 to 18 years of age, was for the betterment of my sheep. Because my sheep were the most important thing to me. They were my own sons and daughters. And I even had conversations with my sheep. They helped lift the barrier of my loneliness. And when I lost my sheep, I felt like I had not just lost a sense of purpose, but I'd lost a part of myself, because my sheep were such an important part of me, and they were so incredulously important to what I had done throughout those 2 years, that I felt something eccentric and harrowing, an experience I'd never felt before.
So if you would ever get a chance to get your sheep back, will you get them? Like after you achieve your dream, of course.
After I achieve my dream, I can do whatever I want in the world, because I have achieved my life's main purpose. And when I say anything I want in the world, I don't mean anything bad. I mean anything else apart from something bad. And I mean, I can become a shepherd again. I can sell crystal merchants again. I can just walk around the whole world if I want to. Who knows? I can do whatever I want. But once I have achieved my life's goal, which is the reason I was put on this, which is the reason I am standing on my 2 feet, I can do whatever I want. For I have achieved the main purpose of my life. And that is the most important thing to me.
So will you get your sheep back? Like
That is a question that will only be answered in the future, and the future can never be predicted in the present. Just follow the present. It's like a river. You stay on a boat and you go through that river and just see the spectacles and the wonders on the side, and just keep going with the flow of the river, and it will lead you naturally wherever it wants to take you.
that was a really nice answer.
It was truly amazing,
It was
Sandy.
beautiful.
But I just wanted to remark something. When you compared your sheep as your daughters and son, it just shows how deep a connection you had with them. So it must have been a great loss for you.
How you said that they were a part of you. That
It
must have been-
also,
And when you lost a sense of purpose in your life after losing them.
and losing the sheep is also very important, is also something very important. And people need to realize this. If you want to achieve a goal, there's something you really want to achieve, there are some very important things you will have to sacrifice along the way.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was a great interview. I had some really great questions and I felt very joyous in answering them. And all of you were great anchors today. I feel very happy.
Thank you, Santiago. And it was just a pleasure to have you here with us. And we look forward to interviewing you again. Maybe
after you achieve your dream.
Several more questions we'd like to ask you some other time.
Yeah, after
Hopefully
you
when I reach Egypt, I will have another interview with all of you.
Yes.
We can only look forward to it.
Okay, I hope, I think this is the end of the interview now.
Yeah.
Now I
Thank you.
call upon Ashita, Rahini, Brinda, and Ranveer to present their interview.
Thank you, Ananya. A very good morning to one and all present here. I, Rahini Jain, along with Ashita Agrawal, Ranveer Dhonde, and Brinda Bhiappu, have created a presentation interviewing the renowned character Melchizedek of the world-famous novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Just a minute. Is my screen seen?
Good morning. We, the students of grade 18, are here to interview the one and only Melchizedek. I, Ashita, along with Ranveer and Rahini, are here in Spain to interview Brinda, who is playing the role of Melchizedek from one of the greatest novels by Paulo Coelho. We are absolutely amazed to see you in person in one of the best cafes in Spain. We're stoked to meet you in such a beautiful country. I hope we could have a great conversation.
Melchizedek, in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, he was a figure of importance in biblical tradition because he was both king and priest. He was connected with Jerusalem and was revered by Abraham, who paid tithe to him.
Greetings, I'm Melchizedek, and I'm here with my fellow interviewers to whom I'll be answering today. I'm rather pleased to be here, and I'm looking forward to answer some interesting questions. Let's begin.
I'm glad that you're here to answer our questions. It's a pleasure to meet you here. There are a few questions that we have in mind. The first question from my side to you is that there are a few people who believe in Maktub. Are you one of them? If yes, then why?
Yes, I do believe in Maktub. Maktub is the belief that everything is written by one hand, and that one hand is God Himself. Maktub, in short, is one's destiny. But one must not get confused between maktub and fate. They must not give in to fate and they must fulfill their destiny. And remember that we are the deciders of our own journey.
That truly was eye-opening and very thought-provoking. So Melchizedek, I've been wondering, and I've been meaning to ask you this question. In fact, a lot of people have. So what exactly are your powers and how would you explain them?
That's a very interesting question, child. My duty is to encourage to discourage people to follow their dreams. So I always don't appear in human or my usual form, but I appear in a form of a solution or a good idea, or at times I make it easier for things to happen. For example, I came as a form of a rock to help a miner find an emerald. So when he was about to give it all up, so I do a lot of things that people don't realize that I have done, like the miner. So if I
So
would
basically,
give,
you appear at a point in life when people are about to give up on their destiny.
yes, like if I would give one word to my powers, then it would be for sure a blessing that helps so many people. So yeah.
Truly does. So before we move ahead, who granted you these powers? Was it God himself?
Yes, it was God himself.
That sends chills down my spine. Don't you think, Ranveer?
Yeah. So, many people share the belief that the destination is of more importance than the journey. But I have differing views. What, as per you, is more significant?
Enjoy the journey because the destination is
Yeah.
just a mirage. It's the journey that teaches you more about the destination, and it teaches you so many life lessons. The journey forever stays with you. Like take Santiago for example.
Yeah.
In his journey, he learned the language of soul that connects us to the universe. This was possible just because of his journey.
Yeah, it was.
I definitely agree with you on this one, but why can't everyone recognize you when you reach out for help? I mean, is there a way we could recognize you every time you try to come out and try to help us out?
That's a very good question, my child. People fail to recognize me when I reach out for help because they refuse to acknowledge my presence. They are unwilling to fulfill their destiny and they start making excuses to avoid change. Like the crystal merchant, he starts using what if and everything. So
Yeah.
the crystal merchant has every opportunity to fulfill his dream, but he chooses to ignore it, and because he was just scared of change.
Yeah, so he's just basically trying to avoid having
Yeah.
to change his lifestyle.
Change.
Yes. So, is beginner's luck really luck, or is it too written in a person's destiny? Is luck just a name given to destiny?
Beginner's luck is a force that wants you to realize your destiny. It whets your appetite with a taste of success. Like everything is maktub. Like I've said before, maktub means everything is written. So Santiago coming across Crystal Merchant was a form of beginner's luck because it helped him to move forward and follow his own dream.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah.
Yeah. I always felt like the whole world is connected in some way or the other. How do you think the whole world is connected? And why do you say everything in life has its price?
The whole world is connected by the soul of the world. It's basically a positive force that connects everyone together. So everything has a soul, both living and non-living objects, and together they
Yes.
form the soul of the world. So there's this language in the world that everybody understands. It's basically a language of enthusiasm, of everything accomplished with love and purpose, and that's universal language. So and
Universal
everything
language.
and everything in life has its price. Now Santiago wanted to know about his treasure, so I asked him for his flock, 1/10 of his flock, but not the treasure, because if I would have asked the treasure, he would lost his desire to work towards getting it. And that's how I taught him everything in life has its price, and loss makes things more valuable.
It sure does.
It really does. That's very thought-provoking of you. But with that being said, I have another question that I had in mind and I've been waiting to ask you. What is the secret of happiness?
That is a very frequent question that I get. I will tell you this. The secret of happiness is to see all the marvels of the world and never to forget the drops of oil on the spoon. As in Santiago's case, a shepherd may like to travel, but he must never forget about his sheep. What I mean is that one must live life to the fullest, but you should never forget about the important parts of the journey of life, your responsibilities basically.
to never neglect your responsibility and enjoy life.
Yeah, so your intentions are to lead people a better life and to have them fulfill their destiny, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So you said that the gods did not have desires because they don't have destinies. And why did you hope that Santiago would be successful in achieving his dream? Because in a way, people do consider you God.
Yep. As the good Lord said, that it is vain to have such foolish desires, but an old king like me must sometimes take pride in themselves. I would not want my efforts to remain unfulfilled. And it's not only about my efforts, but it's very satisfying to see the spark of joy that lights a person's eye who has their dream fulfilled.
Yeah, it sure
That
does.
was very deep. So far, all your answers were so inspiring. I was wondering if you could tell us some of the teachings or life lessons you want to share to this world. And what suggestions would you give to a person to be successful in his or her life?
I would love to know that as well.
That is very exemplary. There are a few life lessons that I have realized and came across during my lifetime, and I would like to share a few with you all. So, as I told before about the miner, he had abandoned everything to go mining for emeralds. So, the miner was about to give it all up right at the point when, if he were about to examine just one more stone, he would have found his emerald. So, I suggest people never to stop pursuing your own personal legend. Secondly, one must follow omens. They take you in the right path. And one must take advantage of the principle of favorability. It's basically a stroke of luck that someone receives when their personal legend begins. Like the Christian merchant coming across Santiago was a stroke of luck that led to the flourishment in his business. Then a person's destiny is what they always wanted to accomplish, and to realize one's destiny is the person's only obligation, is the person's only duty. So it's their only thing they have to do in life. So there is one thing that when you really want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. Like in Santiago's journey, the crystal merchant, the alchemist, Fatima, all were trying to help Santiago be successful. You must remember this, that at any time in your life, you are capable of doing what you dream of. There isn't a specific time, like from this age to this age, only you can actually dream or anything. So you can achieve it anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Melchizedek. It was a pleasure meeting you and getting a chance to have a conversation with you.
That was truly enlightening, Melchizedek. Your presence here will truly act as a breakthrough for all our viewers out there. It would certainly inspire the people who have deviated from their path to take life by its horns and pursue their personal legend, fulfill their dreams. It was wonderful to have you here. On this note, we would end the interview with a special guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Wow, that was pretty interesting. Now I call upon Kovid, Tanishq, Netra, Prakhar, and Vivechna to present their interview.
Okay, just tell me if you can see my screen.
Tanishq, I would request you to turn your camera on.
Yeah, I will. 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear it?
No.
Wait, you
Chetan,
want?
one minute. Tanish, after this presentation, we will take 10 minutes break, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
start.
Wait 1 second. Why you can't? You guys can't hear it?
We
No.
can't. You have to share it out.
Wait 1 second. I am. Okay, 1 second.
Good morning to all present here. Today, our team is going to be having an interview held with the crystal merchant who has come all along the way from Janji to visit us here. The role of the crystal merchant will be played by Tanishan, and the rest of us, including me, Viveshna, Netra, Kovid, and Prakhar, will be the interviewers. Salam alaikum, Saidi. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Assalamu alaikum.
We had a few questions in mind, Saidi. If you allow us to do it, we could proceed.
Yes, please continue.
So, Saidi, what are you going to use more important, dreams or accomplishing your goals?
Well, I feel that dreams are of a higher importance than the goals themselves in one's lives. Since dreams give one hope, I also feel realities can disappoint while dreams cannot. It's the thought of going to Mecca that keeps me alive. If my dream is realized, I'm afraid that I won't have any reason to keep on living any longer.
But why are you afraid of changes? Why were you reluctant to have a change in your shop to make it expand?
Well, I'm afraid of changes because I'm used to the life I have. If the shop expands, I would have more than enough money to go to Mecca. And just as in the last answer I gave, if my dream is realized, I would not have any other reason to go on living any longer.
What do you think about Santiago? Do you think he would be successful?
That's a really nice question, Prakhar. Santiago had, I feel that Santiago had come as a real blessing to me. He made me realize that I act foolishly in not pursuing my personal legend, making it difficult for me to understand my motives when I refuse to pursue it, even when Santiago showed me the benefit of taking risks. As for whether I think he'll succeed or not, I definitely think that he'll succeed.
Okay, well, then if that's it, how did you know that Santiago would pursue his dream for looking for the treasure at the pyramids rather than going back to a sheep?
Well, I think that it's Maktub, it has been written. Working with him was enough to make me know that he likes changes and isn't afraid of realizing his destiny. He was the one, after all, who made my shop expand as much it has, even though I was unwilling to do so, since I did not know how to deal with changes.
Do you think you would be going to Mecca now that you have enough money?
To be honest, no, I would not want to. I would want to go there, but what would happen after what still haunts me? I'm not like Santiago, as I'm totally unlike him, I still do not like to take risks, and I am afraid of changes and following my personal legend.
You said you wouldn't want to go to Mecca now, but do you think you would have gone to Mecca when you started to dream about it?
I don't know, to be honest. Years ago, when I was young, when I was a child, I wanted to go to Mecca. That is precisely why I started the crystal shop in the first place. I would have gone then, but I could not leave the delicate crystals to anyone. But now, when I think of it, I'm afraid I would not have a reason to go on any longer.
What do you define success in this role?
I'm a sort of a person who is not accustomed to changes. So I want the business to flourish. I want the business to thrive, but I'm still not sure whether I'll be happy after that happens because, as I said in the above answers I gave, I am not used to changes.
There's a question I would like to ask. You once said, every blessing ignored becomes a curse. Can you elaborate on that statement?
I would love to. What I meant by the statement was that we may not realize it, but the lives we lead today are distant dreams for many. I agree to Santiago's decisions on my shop, which came as a blessing to me. But if I would not have done so, it would have robbed me of the little chance I had to do what I couldn't for many years.
So that's it with the questions. It was wonderful spending time with you, and we learned a lot from you. Shukram Lakumon for giving us your time.
Most welcome. Even I loved your questions very much, and I would love to be back here. Walaikum assalam.
That was really interesting. I always wanted to know how the crystal merchant would answer such questions.
Ananya?
Continue with our 10-minute break.
हाँ, very good, very good. So we'll meet at 10:40. Okay.
Okay, 10:40.
Okay. Chalo, bye.